first and foremost, Jasmine, just talk to us about, what you think Elon Musk wants out of this. Is it to exercise change, as he says? I mean, what sort of change do you think could be afoot as a product perspective?
Well, first of all, it's not totally surprising that this is happening. We all expected there to be some turbulent times ahead. I mean, Musk is one of Twitter's most prolific users, and Twitter is a social platform that thrives on big news and uncertainty, and that's something that likely appeals to Musk. In terms of what he'll change, though, I think first and foremost, Musk would make Twitter a free speech haven, probably reversing many of the guardrails that Twitter has put forth recently to protect the health of the platform, its users, and to make advertisers feel comfortable advertising there. He'd probably also likely transform it into a subscription-only service that isn't reliant on advertising to bring in revenue. I don't think this is something that would happen overnight. I don't think Musk is 100% happy with the existing subscription model and would want to improve it before he does implement these changes, but that's likely something that would come if this deal materializes.
To that point, Mark, if you see that the product could change, would it be a positive change? How do you view any of the discussion around the evolution of the product and whether inherently it could add value? Because from what I took from the TED Talk, this ended up being thought of as sort of a not-for-profit endeavor that he's taking on.
Caroline, I think you just pointed out what's going on here. I don't necessarily hear a public market strategy from Musk. I hear a public good strategy. I've been on the sidelines on Twitter and really skeptical about the asset for a couple of years because of the slow pace of product innovation on both the user and the advertiser side. I don't hear Musk addressing those issues. I think his goals are different. I think he has public goods goals. In other words, he wants to turn it into an absolutist free speech platform. Hey, he's on the side of the angels as far as I'm concerned on that, but that's not what shareholders are necessarily focused on. What are you doing to improve the tools for advertisers to run performance marketing campaigns on the side? What are you doing to make the site more intuitive for more consumers? And I'm not sure a subscription business is going to really add a lot. If you run through the numbers, and we've run surveys on this, it's only about 10% of Twitter users really want to pay for a subscription service. Even putting up the kind of numbers, $2 or $3 a month. I mean, maybe you get $500 million in revenue. Right now, this company is generating $3 to $4 billion in revenue. Advertising is a great model, and it's a $1 trillion TAM. So that's fine for Twitter to stick with that. They just need to improve the tools, and I don't hear that coming from Musk. But I don't think that's his strategy. I think he's coming at it with a public goods strategy, which is what you pointed out.
And to that end, Jasmine, that, of course, isn't music to investors' ears. What is music to investors' ears is growth, is getting more people on board. I mean, in a weird way, this is sort of a wonderful advertising, free PR stunt that's currently going on for the use of the social media platform. But inherently, do you think it would spell its demise in terms of users, in terms of growth?
Well, the interesting thing here is that, Musk's comments really come at a time that Twitter has had a rebound in ad growth. Last year, worldwide ad revenues were up 41% to nearly $4.5 billion. In 2020, ad revenues only grew by 7.4%. But I think you're absolutely right. At the very least, this will drive a lot of user engagement on Twitter. Controversy tends to turn or to have people lean into the platform. At the same time, though, that makes a lot of advertisers really, really wary. Twitter has long been used as a brand advertising platform, and the company has done a lot to make it brand safe for advertisers. Now, Musk takes a very different view on speech on Twitter and is probably going to push for less, not more, content moderation, and that will make risk-adverse advertisers really think twice about advertising there.
Mark, as you said, for the few years you've been on the sidelines sort of questioning the overall business model. When we saw the changing of the guard, Jack Dorsey handing over to Parag Agrawal, did you think that was net positive? How are we feeling about this CEO, relatively new in tenure, having to navigate what is a complete storm, perfect or not?
Caroline, I viewed that as a really strong net neutral. So, look, I don't know that we've heard under the new CEO a really clear strategy for the company going forward. I'll give him a few months. I think we all should. But at the same time, he's been with the company for, I forget now, 8 or 10 years, running product. By the way, that's been the problem at the company. I want to be respectful here, but it's been a slow pace of innovation, and the company's come out and acknowledged that. They said that at their last investor day. So I'm not sure this was the radical change that Twitter really needed in order to speed up the product development cycle, create these performance marketing tools, and make the service just increasingly more intuitive for users. There's a point that Jasmine's made that's also really important. Some of this content moderation has been absolutely necessary. A few years ago, there was just too much vitriol and too many of these F-bombs on Twitter. So they needed to take that out. I think Musk is really focusing on the political content moderation. He may be right about that. But I don't think advertisers and I don't think users are really, I think most users probably aren't all that in the weeds and don't really care that much about the political moderation, the lack of it, or what's going on there, because there's so many broad sets of interests. And I'm sorry, I think politics is just a small part of Twitter's appeal. Yeah. So again, I look at this and what's going to change the growth profile? Yes, we had a good last year, but I think this is versus the other assets in the space. Snap's had much better product innovation and growth, and this company doesn't even touch the scale of Google or Facebook.
Okay, so a one answer question for you both as we head towards the end of this conversation. When I'm looking at $54.20, $54.20 in terms of taking it private, do you think we'll potentially see a deal for at least, is it worth $54.20, Jasmine?
It's so hard to say, and I do believe that because of Musk's character, there is a very large chance that this deal does not materialize and that he changes his mind.
Mark, $54.20, is it worth that?
I think he's going to get his offer rejected. I think he's going to sell his stock. I think the stock's going to give up its 20% gains. Is it worth $54.20 under a series of product improvements? Absolutely, it is. But we have to see the improvements first. No, I don't think right now, today, it's not worth $54.20. And I don't appreciate his pod analogies. He doesn't have to put that as part of his bid. I just think that undermines the credibility a little bit of the offer.